I'm Marty Nemco, and this is the first of my reinventions. I'd like to reinvent our thinking about climate change. Uh, Certainly I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm certainly not saying it's not man-made. I'm certainly not saying it's a net positive that global warming is occurring. I'm certainly not saying that the world won't stay in compliance with the severe restrictions that would be required to attempt to cool the globe. What I'm saying is that the joint probability of all of those things is far more uncertain than the United Nations panel would have us believe, and even our media would have us believe. And therefore, before we decide that we are going to spend the money and incur great cost into human freedom by, for example, not building freeways and requiring all of the items to be built very green, therefore raising the cost of items, especially things like homes, that there is more debate required. Why am I saying this? Not just because I've got a PhD in research evaluation and statistics from Berkeley. That hardly makes me qualified to make that assertion. But it does make me qualified to at least have conversations with some folks. And I've had conversations with the likes of Richard Lindzen, who is the MIT named professor of atmospheric sciences. I've had conversations with Freeman Dyson, who is the maybe arguably one of the world's leading living physicists. I've read some of the work of Willie Soon, astrophysicist at Harvard, as well as of other less well-known but certainly credible experts in the field. And that leads me to conclude that the United Nations IPCC, that is the International Panel on Climate Change, while its 1,200 members includes people of all stripes, the people that have gotten all the power have been basically of one side, have basically life, for reasons beyond what I want to discuss in this video, have accepted the position that we need to greatly change the way in which we live, and that it's worth almost sparing no cost in doing that. And perhaps it's troubling with me, and so that kind of intellectual climate bothers me, when there is a responsible other side that is not given adequate voice. But what bothers me more is that the media seems to have its interest in presenting that narrative as well, thereby also denying debate. So what is the reinvention I ask for? I ask that we maintain a healthy intellectual skepticism before we spend the massive amounts of money and incursions on human freedom that would be required to attempt to cool the planet, until we can find out with greater certainty than the current computer models, which are very weak, until with greater certainty we can assess whether, A, how much is the climate changing? How much is it how much of it is man-made? How much of it is feasible to reduce as a result of collective efforts from the world? How realistic is it to assume that the world will be in substantial compliance for the 50 to 100 years it would take for technology to develop enough that we wouldn't have to impose such strict incursions on freedom and strict costs? Those are still very open questions. And I don't think because of the precautionary principle we have to worry, God forbid, that Al Gore is right, that we need to act now. I think given the opportunity costs, what the money and effort could otherwise be spent on, I believe we'd be wiser to retain a measure of intellectual skepticism and agnosticism rather than the secular religious attitude that some environmentalists in the media and on the IPCC seem to have. That's why I'm wearing this t-shirt. I'm more worried about the intellectual climate of what I call censorship. And on the back, what it says is demand debate. Hope you can see that. Anyway, that's my first reinvention. I'm Marty Nemco, and I thank you very much for watching.